Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back on a Monday night at 9:30. Ask the same question we ask every Monday night. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. Newcastle United are back. What a brilliant performance this weekend. I can't wait to talk about it. An unbelievable performance and a couple of goals. Absolutely filthy, even filthier than the QR code on a Mattel doll for the Wicked movie. What's going on with you, mate?
I did wonder when I saw that this morning whether you try and work something like that.
Oh yes, I'm always gonna go for the current trending stories as the opening monologue, mate. Yes, filth, just like those two goals. Brilliant.
Good lad, good lad. I'm currently just working out how to fix graphics cards because my daughter's decided a few weeks before Christmas to just pack in yesterday. So that's my job for the next week.
Well. The technical man never sleeps. The man in the chair never sleeps. He sleeps in the chair, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to talk about Newcastle United tonight, and I'm really buzzing about this because it's been a great performance of the weekend. Everybody's in a good fettle. We're in a good fettle, and I'm sure you guys live are in a good fettle. As I can see loads of comments coming in already. We'll get stuck into your comments in a minute. As we always say, if you like this kind of a thing, smash subscribe. Come help get us to the 9,000 subscriber mark. We're really close. We're only 60, 70 something. It's too late for maths. I can't be asked. We're close. Smash the button. Help get us there. I know, mate. My head's gone. I can't be bothered with it. It's gone already. Someone get me an abacus and count up because I can't be bothered. I'm just counting points and goals. That's all I'm counting tonight. But we are live as well. Jump in the comments. There's loads if you have already. We'll get stuck right in. Chippers is already on fire, I think, at this comment here. They were as filthy as Katie Price's legs. Superb, mate. Superb. Not as far apart, though. Not as far apart, Chippers. A bit closer together. Sorry, he set me off now. He said we've gone off on a tangent already.
We've started early tonight. Jesus,
we've started. We'll get to all these min comments in a minute because there's loads of fun. And it's always a good mood when everybody wins, and that's the first place to start. Mark, comeback win. You know, Forest on fire in the Premier League, third in the Premier League, flying high. And I must admit, before we get stuck into, I've got some bits to talk about later. Forest fans, class acts for me, man. Yeah, class acts in the ground, class acts online as well. Some of the love from the Forest fans towards Newcastle United fans in our preview comments and other content creators' comments online as well. Just no bile at all. I jumped off social media, nothing to do with the Forest fans, just to do with the massive amount of bell ends on there that just run towards you like Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. And my sword just wasn't strong enough to whack my way through them. So I thought, fuck it, I'm going to leave social media for a bit. But I did keep an eye on the Forest fans, and I thought they were class at me. I must say that. But going into the game, big pressure on this game, Mark. Big pressure. Two brilliant performances against Chelsea and Arsenal. We needed the lads to step up and continue the run. And bloody hell, they did deliver after going a goal down as well.
I think it was a test of their mettle, wasn't it? After really good performance against Chelsea in the cup, after disappointing result in the league, and then a really good performance at home against Arsenal. The test is then on the road where Newcastle are notoriously iffy at times. They're not always at their best, and it was a good test against a side that is played really above themselves. Probably they've been excellent this season, and Nuno's got them playing brilliantly. And Chris Wood has been on fire until this weekend, and it was a really good performance. I'll get into some of it. I do think there was an element of luck in that, particularly in that first half. I'll get there in a little bit. But the second half, they were phenomenal. It was a brilliant performance. It was a brilliant away performance in the end, and quite rightly 3 points in the bag. And yeah, looking up the table again.
Absolutely. I mean, Chippers has already thrown it in there. We're going to get into this in a minute, but he's right. How in the fuck did Yates stay on the pitch? I mean, I said this in the post-match as well, Chippers. And I mean, for starters, the elbow on Tino should have at least had a yellow card. And then the one on Longstaff was a red card on its own. It was disgraceful. And I don't see the point in having all these cameras around football when the referee's not even got the nuts to go and check them. And we've got more on referees tonight. You'll be very surprised to know what's in Out of Toon tonight. I'm sure you've seen it. Shocking. But I mean, Anthony Taylor is one of the worst referees that this Premier League has to offer. And that is saying something. That's like looking into a toilet bowl and seeing 8 turds and picking out the smelliest turd in the bowl. That's how bad Anthony Taylor is as a referee. He's the one with fucking sweet corn in the middle of it. That's what he is. He's fucking dreadful as a referee. But I'm sorry, just make Mark feel a bit ill there. But I don't understand. from a referee's point of view, I don't understand how the fuck he can miss all of those fouls from Yates, Mark. And we won the game in the end, so it didn't matter, but it could have went the other way, and it could have been the biggest talking point of the whole game, because, I mean, I'm all for combative midfielders. I love that kind of play, but that was fucking atrocious by Yates. It really was. I mean, for starters, it was atrocious that he didn't get a yellow card, but it was atrocious that nobody leveled the little bell end in row Z as well, which I would have loved to have seen. I actually wanted Joelinton to, like, put them between two slices of bread and eat them, and then them out on the pitch, really. But yeah, I mean, the referee was dreadful. Chippers is right, man. Awful.
Yeah, not his finest performance, Anthony Taylor, was it? It was, just not a fans being not there. I tell you that much. Christ almighty. And to anybody around the world that is eating right now, I apologize for Chris. That's a little bit too much.
Listen, anyone who's eating sweet corn, that shit ain't coming out for a long time. Don't worry about that. Just like Anthony Taylor. We've got
moving on.
A non-toilet based super chat from Insanity. You've rescued his Insanity. So good to see the dynamic duo back again. Best part of my
Thank you, mate.
Really appreciate that, mate. And thank you for your donation as well. I'll put it towards some toilet roll for the sweet corn turds that drop into the bowl, mate. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I mean, going back to the game. Exactly. See, some of the guys are enjoying the comments there. This is the best part of their evening. Having a good laugh as well about the old sweet corn. Always get a bit of sweet corn in your shit, even if you don't eat it. Says James, you do. Where does it come from? Where does it come from? Another comment there from Chris Goes said, "Hi guys, brilliant result yesterday. The midfield balance is spot on. Good to see Willock back to form." That's a great segue to take us in, that, Mark, because we did a video a few weeks ago, and there was a real concern about Willock. We didn't know when he was going to come back, but I tell you something, big credit to Willock, big credit to Eddie Howe. They've managed to get Mark is now a vegan. Fucking brilliant.
I'm just going to meat only now. I'm not going anywhere near vegetables. That's it.
Yeah. Is that sweet corn behind you, actually, Mark, on the bench? I can see that. But going back to Joe Willock. I mean, Joe Willock, he just seems to have got back to the Joe Willock that we all knew and loved, and such a vital part of that team that finished in the top four. And when you look at them at the weekend, I did say in the post match, it's quite funny because when he got subbed off for Tonali, I was thinking it was going to be Longstaff, and I think I said to you, unless Joe Willock's fucked, but Joe Willock constantly looks fucked. He looks fucked from minute one on the pitch. That's one of the hidden skills he has, where I think defenders go, "Oh, he's knackered, I won't mark him." They just go zoop and he's away. But his running, his quality, his power, the link up with Lewis Hall as well on that left hand side, Mark, is just, I mean, that is superb, isn't it? Absolutely superb, man.
It is, and it's we talked about it for so long, haven't we? That original balance from 2 years ago, and we go back to last week's one with the sort of the shades of 22-23, where that left hand side just worked so well, and the added dynamic of Lewis Hall in that mix as well has been great. Cheers, Chippers. So to see him back to his best, and I think we were sensible in that video, and you asked the question around, is it a decline? Is it to do with the injuries? Is it to do with the lack of fitness and just coming back? And I think we've seen that. I think we've seen that the balance in midfield better, and we've seen him back to virtually full fitness now, and he's thriving. I'd love to see a couple more goals out of him, I think, but he was, particularly that first half, he was so dangerous, running in. Yeah, exactly, George.
We did start early, George.
But you get Willock running in behind, playing that high part of the midfield, which he did again this week, and he is really dangerous in and around the box. There's an argument for a penalty. I'll come to that as well. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's falling apart today already. Oh my God.
It's falling apart. But yeah, but you got some slides to go through in a minute, Mark. But I think that left-hand side, as some of the guys are saying, that it's so strong in a minute for Newcastle. It really, really is. And I mean, we'll get on to Joelinton moving to the right, which was just unbelievable to see what happened there. And we were all salivating over Gordon there the week because of the cross. And then Joelinton goes and does that. And you think, wow. But that left-hand side of the pitch now just seems to be the strongest part of Newcastle's lineup, and for such a long time it was kind of the weakest, not up front, in defence mostly, and I think that just the emergence of Lewis Hall at left back, and he's obviously in the England squad. I really hope he gets a start. I mean, the way they're dropping like flies out of the England squad, he should hopefully get a start. But I think if he does get a start for England and he puts in, even 70% of the performances he's putting in for us at the minute, he could really nail that left back spot down in the England team, because he looks so full of confidence on the pitch. I mean, Joelinton took all the plaudits of the weekend, and rightly so, in terms of man of the match and stuff like that. But Lewis Hall again, Mark, so assured, just calm, composed. Like you say, the link up as well with Willock and Joelinton on that side, then Gordon after that as well. And then even Barnes and Tonali when they were over there.
Yeah.
He just seems to be able to play with any of the players that we have. He's so calm on the ball. He's so comfortable. I love the bit as well when Elanga tried to strip him for pace. And if you go back to what happened with Byrne in Elanga, when he absolutely battered him, I think Dan Byrne still got scorch marks on his legs, I think, from that race. Hall just kind of got himself in front of the ball, and then Elanga and him kind of tangled up a bit. They went down, and Byrne Hall just scooped it back, turned around with the ball, like glued to his foot, and got up again. And you were like, wow, like that is a proper quality left back play. That's the kind of thing you'd see an Andy Robertson or an Ashley Cole do to like a pacey winger. And I thought that's really, really amazing to see the development of this kid just in real time. And I just think, hopefully touchwood, injury free and everything else, I just hope he keeps on growing, Mark, because I really do think we've got our left back for years there if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, he gets defensively more assured every week. On the ball, at left back, is there a better sort of ball playing left back in the league at the moment? There might be a better left back in the league. Just a pure left back, but is the ability to come forward with the ball the way that he does, his passing ability, particularly his long ball ability. There was a ball in the first half that he just drops onto the edge of the box, right onto, I think it's Joelinton's chest. It was just wonderful. We saw the long balls from him 2 weeks ago, I think, where he was pinging them 40, 50, 60 yards, inch perfect. He's growing into a fabulous footballer. And his defensive abilities, like you say, Byrne got torched by Elanga. And to see him matching him stride for stride, because pace has been a question mark with him as well. He's not the quick, but I think he's starting to think more quickly. So he gets that extra, step ahead. But he's just been brilliant. And again, I mean, he probably could easily have been man of the match too at the weekend. Had Joelinton not stood out quite so much.
Absolutely. We'll get into Joelinton. We've got plenty to talk about with Joelinton, but let's have a look at your brilliant Monday night soccer, we'll call it, slides, Mark. We're not going to infringe on copyright, but let's have a look at your wonderful slides, especially after that weekend. What a brilliant section that is. And yeah, you're right, Stu. Team has called up, which is brilliant. We could end up with both our fullbacks playing for England, which I just think is class. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's about 7 or 8 been called out of the England squad due to injuries and stuff, including Trent, and Tino's back in. So yeah, absolutely brilliant again for him. Both fullbacks again. I mean, that could be something, especially over the next couple of games. Why not? Give it a whirl. Should be fun. But yeah, slides wise, there's not as much, I don't think, this week to kind of go through. I've probably got more slides, but a couple of them were to do with some of the decision making of the referee.
More slides in COVID-19. You kidding me? You fucking loads of slides in here.
but initially, it struck me earlier on, and it was something that I think Newcastle. When I said earlier on about Newcastle perhaps being lucky, and it was about the way that they set up, and you sort of see the way that they began to set up in midfield with Bruno slightly deeper, and the two. I've actually highlighted. Isak there instead of Willock, who's further forward as well. So forgive me for that one. That's that error straight on the first one, but it was kind of the same idea. There was two high midfielders this week instead of the two deeper and the one further up in Willock. But it left this gap in the middle, and it was. And I know Eddie talks about this in the post match and in. Some of the questions he got just about ball retention, about the ability for Newcastle to retain the ball and use the ball. And that's kind of what he wants to do. The problem that Newcastle had in the first half was they kept giving the ball away relatively cheaply. And what happened was you ended up with sort of that box being completely free. You can see Bruno just on the edge of that yellow line there. Then you can see Isaac in the middle with Sean and Willock either side. But the problem was at times, and not particularly in this moment, but it kind of gave the indication of what was going on, is Forest would turn the ball over and then break at pace. And really, it was their decision-making in the final third, which ultimately cost them, because that first half, there were 2 or 3 moments, especially when Alanga got away, and his poor choice of pass. Morgan Gibbs-White had one as well, where it's just that final ball where they were able to just nick the ball, or players gave the ball away cheaply, just ran themselves into a little bit of bother, and Forest could break. And that, I think that element of luck, I think they deserved it. They did for how well they played. And I thought, particularly in the back, Dan Burn, I think, marshalled Chris Wood really, really well, didn't let him have a sniff. Cher as well.
With Gibbs-White, to be fair, Bruno sniffed out Gibbs-White, stopped him playing, really. So
yeah, he did. But like I say, just that initial bit of caution in that first half by pushing those 2 midfielders so far forward, it just left the gaps open, and they, I guess they got away with it a little bit. It changed the second half, and I'll come to that. These are the 2 red card decisions. Now,
gotta be a red card. That.
I've put an arrow there because this is the point in which Yates looks at Livramento. He's not looking at the ball. He stops. He looks at Livramento, gauges where we are, and up goes the elbow.
Look where the ref is. Look where the referee is, Mark. That's absolutely fucking unbelievable.
Perfect view. And it goes for the second one as well. So I can't understand how that's not given as at least a yellow card.
Got to be a yellow card.
If you watch some of the games in midweek, and particularly in Europe, and I know that the refereeing is slightly different, but we've seen this happen in the Premier League. The player's running through or trying to hold off a player and puts the hand up to try and just hold off and catches a player in the face, completely
go down rolling and all that.
That player goes down, free kick given to the defending side, and there's always a yellow card that goes with it. What on earth is this? It's ridiculous. The second one, I think, is for me is worse.
That's a straight red. That's a straight red for me.
It's thigh high, studs up, right in front of the referee, and I think, as the commentator said, he's looked out by the fact that Sean's just screamed some sort of expletive at that time and got on with it. How does the referee
lucky Sean
look
kept
at
going?
that?
If Sean had went down, Sean could have got him sent off if he went down, I think.
But how has the referee looked at that and gone, do you know what, that looks all right? And how has VAR then re-looked at it and gone, do you know what, there's nothing in that? Fuck off. Yeah. That's an appalling foul. He's lucky.
He's lucky Sean didn't break his leg with that there, because that could be a leg breaker. That's fucking atrocious. That
he gets lucky because that leg's in the air. And it just moves it, and I mean Sean's lucky.
That's a standing leg. He could be in big trouble.
It's horrible. But yeah, I mean that's red card too. This was the penalty decision in the first half.
Straight penalty as well. That's a straight penalty.
I don't know how anybody looks at this on camera and goes, "Yeah, do you know what? That's a fine foul." He sort of played he's gone through the back of Joe Willock. So I just, I mean the decision, the fact that the VAR haven't even got into look, and that they sort of talk about this higher threshold of stuff and things, but that's a penalty. He's gone through the back of Joe Willock's leg. He's not played the ball. He's played Joe Willock, who's played the ball. That's a penalty for me all day long.
Hands down.
What I did like from Newcastle was that in their goal, a little bit of shithousery, a little bit of the dark arts getting back in creeping into things. And I think some of this comes with the confidence of the previous weeks. And we've had a go at the set piece design at times. I quite like this. It's a bit borderline from Bruno on the goalkeeper, because he does push him. They're 6 of one half and dozen of the other to a point. And Bruno does push him. He does start to go. And I think if the goalkeeper falls over, he gets a foul. But I like the dark arts, and it just puts them off a little bit. The ball sort of comes off Sean's shoulder, doesn't it? As 2 of the Forest players challenge him. I mean, I'm sorry, VAR. you looked at that 3 or 4 times to check whether it was handball, and it's hit the top of his shoulder.
Ridiculous.
What were you
But
looking
they didn't
at?
look at Sean Longstaff tackle as long as that, or Tino's elbow as long as that. So one could be forgiven to think there's a fucking conspiracy theory going on.
Well, yeah, you start to understand why people have them. This was brilliant from Tonali as well. So just a little bit about Tonali's movement. This little sort of movement to his left, and I think it's Yates that gets sucked in, and he's just made that movement to his left and then darts right as the ball moves. Oh yeah, I've forgotten about that.
The corner was awful as well. He's dreadful.
But from that to that, it shows just how good Tonali is in terms of his awareness.
He was class when he come on. The quality he showed. I mean, I don't know if you've got a slide with Barnes' goal there, but that whole play for Barnes' goal was just, that was what, 90 million quid's worth of footballer there when you look at the two of them. The little bit of play, the little flick by Barnes, the ability to find him with the ball. And Barnes' finish was just fucking, like I say, it was filth, absolute filth. It was brilliant. And that's Barnes got 4 and 11 in the Premier League, which is, if he played all season, he'd get 15 goals probably. Do you know what I mean? There's not many midfielders are going to get you that.
No, and we said that as well, didn't we, about him, being missing. He does score you goals, and he will get 10 goals a season quite 100%. Easily, I think.
And not many other midfielders will get that for us in that team. Even though they're quality players, they won't get 10 goals a season.
Probably not. I think this one, as much as this was about Joelinton, the run from Tino Livramento, and you picked up on this during the game as well, the overlap and run from there when the ball's played out by Isak. And I love the fact that Isak is very, very comfortable. He comes short, he stays high, he'll go left, he'll drift right. He will pick up in any position. And I think Eddie has again talked about this, and the fact that front line is comfortable playing left, right, centre, and it gives them a lot of fluidity there. And I think with the confidence will come results from that. But that run from Tino, and it just drags the defender away. Yeah. I think I can't remember who it was that
Moreno,
was covering across. I can't remember whether Moreno had gone off at that point. But you look at it and you think, well, he's what, a yard and a half from him. He's perfect to kind of close him down. But the hesitation with Livramento overlap in there it's a brilliant run, and then the cutback from Joelinton, the finish is just wonderful.
Oh, it's sensational.
And then again, this goes back to what I was talking about last week, and this change in defensive stance for the way that Newcastle approached it in the second half again. And it was all between the lines. It was all, you look and you have set up, and it wasn't for the whole half, but for a huge majority. If you go back and look at the positioning of the defenders, they were quite happy to let Forest play with the ball at this point, especially later in the game, block off anything going through the middle. And obviously Morgan Gibbs-White came off, and they forced the Forest players to look wide again. And it works. They stop those passing lanes. They block off the Eddie Howe gap that we talked about the other week. And again, it just you flood that middle part of the park where some of their ball players, especially when Anderson came on the field as well, because I thought they marshalled him really, really well. Didn't let him get into the game. Didn't let him influence anything. And as much as he could really do was just knock the ball wide and then put the ball in. And again, I think Newcastle were really confident in the fact that they could cope with anything in the air. I thought Pope did really, really well coming for those balls, particularly that ball that was knocked in from the right later in the game that he sort of took away from Chris Wood one-handed. But again, it's that defensive structure that worked so well and then allowed Newcastle to break, win the ball, a bit like Forest did in the first half, win the ball, turn it over quickly, and then just break with pace. And it was a brilliant second half. I mean, there's no fault any part of that, because it was just brilliant and looked like they're back to their best in that regard. Game control again. I mean, for this week, much more from Newcastle, much more possession. a lot more crosses this week that we saw, 28 crosses. There was a comment I saw from, I can't remember who it was now, who suggested they wished that Newcastle had stopped so many of the crosses. Well, Newcastle had had a lot more. They were willing to put the ball into the box from all sorts of angles and cause some problems with it too. But the key one, I mean, 17 shots, 6 on target, only conceding the 9 shots on target where shots on or not shots total 3 on target, where that's been earlier in the season been a bit of a problem for them, where they were struggling to stop teams getting the ball and having an effort on goal. But yeah, a much better performance. And Chris, I've disappeared.
You've disappeared off the camera. You've got too many screens to share.
Yeah,
it's all about me.
All about you. But yeah, much better performance and a much, particularly second half. Like I say, first half, there was an element of luck in the way they looked to it, and Forest didn't take advantage of those turnover situations, those the breaks where they nicked the ball back. But second half they were magnificent, and Joelinton was back to his very best, and the switch over just before half time to move Joelinton from left to right. And we're going to come to that, so I'm hoping that's a nice little segue. It worked brilliantly.
Absolutely. Just George is saying there, Anderson was tossed by J7 like an empty tracksuit, or dare I say an empty carrier bag. He was. I said that in the post-match. I think it was when Anderson was trying to get in the mix a little bit. He was getting frustrated, you could see, and then he could have come up against Joelinton, and you could almost see the moment in Anderson's eyes where he thought, oh, shit, yeah, I've maybe bit off a little bit more than I could chew here. And then Joelinton just kind of went through him like the fucking 10:30 cross-country train down to London and just fucking knocked him on his arse and took the ball and just went with it. And I think Elliot was picking grass out of his teeth for the rest of the evening, I think, on that one. But, some people are saying Anderson's heart wasn't in it. I know people have took the piss and said once a Geordie, always a Geordie. I do generally think with Anderson, he does look really sad to be playing against us. You see his face. He's not a happy-looking fucking camper anyway, is he? The best of times is Elliot Anderson. But he does look like there's genuine sadness there, I think, when he's playing against us in the couple of times that he's already done it. And he's bound to, because he's a Geordie boy through and through. We are his boyhood club. More on that in a minute. We are his boyhood club. So it is a little bit sad for him. But I do think Elliot Anderson will be a sensational player and he'll have better games. But I think when you come up against Newcastle and that midfield in that mood, Bruno was in his Bruno mood. Joelinton was the destroyer, and you're not going to win a battle like that. Not when you're a kind of young 22, 21-year-old midfielder. They're going to bitch slap you all over the pitch, or two of them, because they're absolute monsters when they're on that form. Got comment there from Dazzler saying, did I see Anderson shove Bruno over? To be fair, Bruno wins that many free kicks. He probably just decided to dive and roll probably and try and get another free kick, because that's kind of what Bruno does in all fairness. But you're right, Mark. The second half performance was absolutely brilliant. And I think the big thing was moving Joelinton over to that right-hand side. This has been a problem for Newcastle for so long. I was listening to the True Faith podcast, and it was a good podcast for the guys. And I think Alex made a good point in saying Eddie Howe's first ever game against Brentford, Joelinton played right wing, was brilliant and scored. And then after that, he never played him there. I think he played him against Brentford once, and then he also played him and scored, and then never played him there again. So, the question that we're asking is Joelinton the answer to the right wing position? I mean, Gordon didn't look his best, did he, on the right wing? Not like the Arsenal game, when he was obviously, whipping the crossing like he did for Isak, and he was causing bother. He just looked like he was kind of out of the game. I moved him to the left in the second half, and he looked a lot more alive. He came alive. He looked like he was the Gordon that we all know. And I mean, Joelinton, you could play him anywhere. I think you could play him in fucking goal, and he'd probably be brilliant. You know what I mean? That's just the way he is. The only position he can't play is centre forward, but every other position he's fine at. But Joelinton on the right wing, is he better there than he is on the left or in midfield? Mark, what's your take on it?
I think it's one of those where it's situational, isn't it? Where I think there'll be weeks where he'll be great left, and that the link up with Willock will work so well. There'll be weeks where Gordon looks better at right wing. There'll be weeks that
I agree with that.
I agree. I can't. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that certainly for depth at that position and natural if Eddie wants to play inverted, then a left-footed right winger is a necessity in that regard. But the game suited Joelinton on that right-hand side. I think Gordon wasn't getting much change out of Moreno in the first half. They marshalled him quite well in terms of limiting his ability to use his pace. He looked much better on the left-hand side when he was able to run with some pace. He still didn't look quite at it. It wasn't his game. And sometimes that's fine because somebody else will pick up. And in this one, it was Joelinton, it was Willock. Isaac looked much, much better. But I don't think Joelinton is the permanent answer to the right-hand side. I just think it absolutely shows that the ability of that front three, as it was, means that you can move it around as fits. And if it's not working, to change it. And how critical have we been at times about Eddie Howe's in-game management? And to see it and go, okay, it's not working. It might only be 5 minutes before half-time. Let's change it now and let's see what happens. And it was instantly much better. Joelinton, for that few minutes before half-time, looked more comfortable on the right-hand side, and Gordon looked more comfortable where he was. And I'm glad they then came out in the second half and did what they did and left them where they were, because it looked so much better. So, yeah, I don't think he's the true answer as such, and it's sort of a little bit of me sitting on the fence, no shock there. But you
were born on the fence.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but it all comes down to what works best in the game. And if, just say again, if using that situational judgment in a game to go, it's not working with one on the left, one on the right, or whichever one's there, let's change it and see what happens. Let's do something different and give the defenders another look. And we've looked for so long about those things not happening in games, and it's nice to see something like that happen. So yeah, it was a perfect scenario, I think, from Joelinton in that second half, particularly on that right wing.
Yeah, absolutely. A good comment there from Phil, saying that he wishes it was where we get Barnes playing regular. I mean, we just said that before about Barnes. Barnes is quality, but as Dazza says there, Barnes is not an option for right wing, impact sub or left wing, or maybe he moves on. I think I said that was in the Toon review chat before we did our post match, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if Barnes maybe asks for a move. But I think if he's coming on and he's scoring goals and he's impacting and he's part of the squad, I'm sure Eddie will try to do his best to assure Harvey Barnes that his future lies in Newcastle. But I think there will be some changes. I mean, listen, if we don't get top four at the end of this season, there might be some of those players that move on, and with, say, Anthony Gordon's one of them, for example, you got a ready-made replacement there, and Harvey Barnes is stepping on the left-hand side. So there could be some conversation of that being had. But I do think in January, a right winger is needed. There's been talk about Mbembo, Semenyo as well from Bournemouth, two players that are very exciting, quick, skillful, get goals, could add to the team, can both play up front as well as right wing. So it also gives you cover if Callum Wilson happens to get injured yet again. He's not even back yet, and I'm already ruling him out as being injured. But that's a smart signing. One of those two players is a smart signing. But I think if you bring somebody in January, which I think is essential, I still think you need a right centre back as well, because I get a little bit worried about Fabian Schär at the minute. I think his passing is a little bit wayward, a little bit easy, predictable. I think his movement isn't quite as sharp as it has been. I think the Euros has took a lot out of him as a player at the age of the years, and I think you need a bit of pace back there. Obviously, Botman's coming back, but the right-sided centre-half need a bit of pace, so maybe that's two positions to address in January. Funny enough, two have asked to be addressed for the last 3 years. But going back to the team, even if we don't get Mbembo and Semenyo in January, but leading up to January and all the games that we have, we've got some winnable games. We've got West Ham, we've got Leicester, coming up, we've got Palace. We've got games that Newcastle should be able to win if they're playing the way that they are. For me, Murphy and Miggy should be way down the pecking order for that right-hand side. Now, you should be looking at Joelinton on the right, Anthony Gordon on the right, or Barnes on the right, way before you get anywhere near Miggy and Murphy for me, Mark.
I'd play me on the right before I play those two.
But you get off the fence first if you want to play on the right, mate. You can't be sitting on the fence all the time.
So, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I agree. I think those two definitely well done the pecking order. they're squad fillers probably at best at the moment, and that's it. I think Brian Mbeumo could be a brilliant signing. He's got goals
100%.
and creativity and an attacking threat from that side. Yeah, I think that would be a cracking signing. But the other two give you options to move around, and even moving Isak right or left at times during games, just to give the defence a different look.
If Wilson does manage to get himself fit, there's games where you can move Isak out to the left and Wilson through the middle, and then you could have somebody else on the right. Good question there from Gary. I think I asked this as well. I think I said this in the Toon review when Tonali didn't start, when I was in the chat. So how long do you think it'll be before Tonali asks for a transfer if he's continuing on the bench and he's not starting ahead of Sean Longstaff? I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, again, with Tonali, is the plan potentially with Tonali, because of the year out that he's had? I think I've already got a comment there saying he'd be a cheeky bastard if he did. I think Ty was saying that he'd be a cheeky bastard if he did. I mean, because he missed such a long time through the suspension, and because the thing about Bruno, Man City are looking for a midfielder. Bruno has been flirted with, a lot of these other teams that are kicking around and stuff like that. Barca, Madrid, all these other teams. If we don't get top 4 this season, who would move first, Tonali or Bruno? If Bruno's going to go, Tonali's a ready-made replacement, step right in, isn't he, and do the Bruno role. And and you probably think that the lad owes the club a little bit. So maybe that's something that the club are thinking about. If we don't get top 4 and Bruno moves on, is Tonali the guy to step up and do the job?
I think if you're looking for a ready-made replacement in that regard, I think Tonali's there. I still go back, and I think we've had this conversation before about the thought that I wonder if the club thought that Bruno would move on,
and that's why they signed him in the first place. Yeah, so possibly.
It's I don't think. Surely he won't be in line for asking for a transfer yet, or demanding any time. I think there's a gap in his CV at Newcastle, isn't there? And he's got to make up for that time. So he has to knuckle down, and I think he's showing in these moments at the moment just how good he can be. His play on Sunday was exceptional when he came on, and he sort of changed
and that's all he can do, isn't it? That's all he can do. I mean, I think Eddie Howe has to, we've said this before, Eddie Howe has to look at his squad as a squad and say, right, this isn't the right game for Sean Longstaff. We're going to have a lot of the ball. We need to make something happen. Tonali's got to be the man for this game. And I think if he does kind of start to divvy that time up between them, in terms of that game's good for Sean, that game's good for Sandro, and the two players can kind of understand that, a little bit like Wilson and Isak were when they both kind of push each other on, then I think that could help both of them. But I think the thing with Tonali is he comes on, he's involved in 2 goals, isn't he, when he comes on? I think the clamour to get a player of such quality into this team is so there from us as a fan base, because we were deprived of him for over a year. And I think maybe not so much Tonali pushing for it. We want it as fans. We want to see Tonali and Bruno in the middle of that park. We want to see it. And I think sometimes we take that out on Sean a little bit. But at the minute, the Sean Longstaff equation is working. The balance of having Sean in that team is allowing players who are better on the ball than Sean to flourish, because Sean is there doing the hard running, doing the blocking, doing the bits that he does, the ugly bits that he does. And because he's there doing it, we're not going to change a winning team. If we're 1-0 down and we're struggling and we need somebody to make something happen, then I think you've got to look and say, right, Tonali's got to come on, Barnes has got to come on, and then Sean's got to go off, because he's not the kind of player to do those kind of things. And hopefully Howe can develop that kind of ruthless streak in him. I mean, you saw Nuno before we scored. I think it was the second goal. Nuno was making subs because he could see we were turning up the pressure. He could see this was starting to get a bit dicey. So he tried to bring off some of his better players to shore things up a little bit. And it was almost too late, because I think we scored either just as he made the subs or just before he made the subs. And at that point, Forest were kind of out of the game. But that's the kind of thing that Eddie needs to do as well, I think. There was a comment there earlier on from Trevor. I'm just going to pull it back up, because this whole thing about the Yates thing, I said this in post-match, Trevor. Yeah, for me, we are missing players like that. But I think that the football era these days is missing players like that. I played midfield, and I'd have thought, I'm going to fucking do this kid. If he smashed my young fullback in the face like that, I wouldn't have even said anything. I just would have went right through the back of him 5 minutes later and got a yellow card, or the ref would have at least spoken to me. But I miss players like Batty, Ince, Keane, Vieira, who'd go, right, you're getting fucked in like 2 minutes. And Shearer, you're right. Shearer was so sly with it. He would have just went and smashed him in the face at a corner or something like that. So I do miss the fact that players aren't there to do that anymore. As much as the technical skill is a bit better, I miss that kind of hard-nosed kind of reaction and retaliation.
I was just about to say this. Sometimes he wasn't so subtle.
Yeah, he wasn't so subtle in that one. Yeah, but remember, I was at the Inter Milan game when Bellamy got sent off, and funny enough, I had a cap on. I took my head off. I took my cap off to scratch my head, and that's when Bellamy got sent off. But I'd missed it completely. I'd watch it on the highlights, but I saw the Shearer elbow in the face on it. I think it was Materazzi, the one that Zidane headbutted. He was younger, playing for Inter Milan. He was tussling with Shearer, and Shearer just went like, bang, and he hit him, and you heard like that, and he hit the deck like a sack of shit. And the ref obviously didn't see it. He turned around, and Shearer went, "Oh, they're talking about he's dived," and the whole crowd was just going Shearer, and he got up, and his face was just pissing the blood. So yeah, I do miss those days. They were great.
There was a clip. I'd got to go off topic, but a similar thing. There was a clip going around of Graham Lasso going in 2-footed on Danny Mills and only getting a yellow card. It was glorious.
Oh god, yeah. There was some great tackles back then, man. But the Keane and Vieira battle was just one of the best I've ever seen. But yeah, it's you couldn't get away with that now. As much as Yates is a bit of a throwback, I suppose, getting away with some of them tackles. He was very lucky that we didn't have a proper nasty bastard on that pitch. Even bringing it forward to slightly more modern times, Czech Teore, God rest his soul, he'd have fucking done Yates as well. He'd have hammered Yates about 10 minutes after that tackle. Because Czech was a right bastard with stuff like that, wasn't he? He would have you, and he would steamroll you. And Cabaye was a little bit like that as well. Cabaye was a nasty little bastard. So, yeah, I do miss a bit of needle in the middle of that park, I must admit.
Definitely. I think, there's a few issues with yellow cards, aren't there? And obviously with Dan Burn being missing and as been in the chat before, Emil Kraft looks like he's going to be out for a couple of months as well.
That's a real shame for Kraft, a real shame that.
Definitely, it does look like. Defensive numbers are going to be limited over the next week or so. I would imagine it's going to be an easy one to put. Yeah, exactly.
He would.
That's after he kicked him in the chest. Yeah. Obviously, Lloyd Kelly will come in, won't he? In place of Byrne, which is a straight swap. That's fine. But there isn't anything else. There's no other sort of backup in there now with Kraft being injured. So they're going to have to be difficult. Shares on his fourth booking. I think Joelinton's on his fourth booking as well. So they've got to be really careful next time up that they don't miss another couple. And the likes of I guess Byrne and Joelinton, those are the ones you probably would have looked to give Yates a little bit of retribution, but weren't able to.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a good point by Baz as well. We can't afford a Tino injury. Absolutely not. I suppose, as much as he's not the best, Murphy can fill in at fullback if needs be. He's done it before. So there is the option there as well. Obviously, Botman's back on the grass, I think, which is really good. They're not going to rush him through. But I think, the fact that we're in this form as well, and Trippier should hopefully be back after the international break, I think they said, which is great. So then that gives you that extra cover if anything did happen to Tino, for example. But I think, you're talking about a team that's in really good form, 1 point off third. They're about to go away on a warm weather camp. It's one of them things where it's a nice segue. Actually, I suppose the break in momentum, really moving on to that one, is that it's probably not ideal. We'd probably rather have a game straight away to keep this run going. But I think getting players back fit, for me, Mark, anyway, I think is key. You're going to have Wilson back, Trippier back, and no matter what we think about their injury record, they're two very good footballers still, and they offer a lot to this squad. Sven Botman getting back to kind of light training is brilliant. Obviously he's not going to be here till January in terms of his performance or appearance on the pitch, but having him back even in the picture, even just kind of coming across over the hill in the distance is amazing. because it raises everybody's game as well. It raises Burns' game, raises Cher's game, raises Kelly's game, because they want to show that they're worthy of their spot, even when Botman comes back and gets fit as well. But yeah, it is a shame to have a break in momentum, Mark. I mean, this is the last international break, I think, till March, isn't it?
Yeah.
So because there's a lot of football after that. But what you think? What's your take on it? Is it good to have the break, or is it bad?
I think it's one of those where you don't want it now, because momentum's back, because 3 wins on the bounce, some really good performances in that as well. You want that to carry on. You want the players to get the most out of the way they're playing. Definitely, Trevor. Yeah, that you want that to carry on. Equally, you can kind of see the flip side. For some of them, it's a good chance to rest. It's a good time to get a little bit of those little niggles that they might have picked up, because not every player they're not all 100%. They're always playing with something. So an ability to just get away and give themselves a fortnight of sort of break, just to recharge a little bit, and then come back for the next run of fixtures, might be a good thing. I guess the biggest thing is those players that are going to go away on international duty. You want them to either not play, or as much as we want to see the likes of Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento playing for England, almost you don't want them to play, because you don't want anything to happen. You don't want them picking up a dodgy knock. But they get but they don't get I guess the flip side of that again is that they don't get the 2 weeks of interaction with the group. They don't get the 2 weeks of preparation for the next game. Is it West Ham?
True.
So
we could get loads of confidence in their legs if they both start for England, and they come back and they're like England international now, especially Lewis Hall. It's a good comment by Barnes as well. We got good form in that game against West Ham. That is a good game to come back to it. And if Callum Wilson is fit, he loves a goal against West Ham, mainly so he can wind up his good mate Mikel Antonio, I think, on his podcast. But yeah, that is a good game to come back to. And then off the back of that is Palace away again. They're not in great form. So that's a good game. And obviously the big one against Liverpool. We're getting to December. December doesn't look too bad, on paper for us, Mark, in terms of obviously Liverpool at home on the 4th is a difficult one. But, we've shown already that we're capable of beating the best sides, at St. James's Park. If we're at it and on it, we can really, really go at it. Then we've got obviously Brentford away, Leicester at home, which is a really good game. Then we've got the quarter final against Brentford, and then Ipswich away, and then Villa at home, and obviously Manchester United away to end December. So there's a couple of potential banana skins in there. But I just think that if Newcastle can keep this form going, and the warmer the break helps, some of the ache and bones recover of some of the other players, as well. And then I think that's only going to be a good thing, really. And I think last time we did international with the warm break like this, I think we did come back and play quite well. I don't think we struggled. There was only the cup final, I think, that we really struggled in, but the league was still decent. The league form was good. So yeah, it might not be the end of the world, Mark, but it's nice to get international breaks out of the way till March, because I fucking hate them. They're so shit. They really, really are. They're pointless internationals. As much as I'd love to see Lewis Hall get his England debut, they are pretty crap on them, really, these international breaks. They're nonsense, man.
Yeah, funny. I think I've said this before, but I think I've gone for a period where probably between 1990 and this year, I'd watched every single England game, and it was one of the friendlies. I just went, I'll take the dog out for a walk. I just no interest in it. I'd lost. I think the whole Southgate debacle at the end, I think the way that it sort of ended with him, it just put me off, and the fact that players are playing that shouldn't play, and players are in the squad that shouldn't have been there, and players that should have been there weren't caught. It just annoyed us, and hopefully a fresh start for them under Tommy T.
Tommy T, double T.
I've lost my overall love of international football. I used to be a huge lover of it, but it's. The Nations League, for one, is shite. I don't get it at all, other than it's a way for UEFA to make themselves money, or FIFA to make themselves money. They're both as bad as each other. So yeah, look, I'll enjoy it for the players that are getting their first call ups, potentially getting on the field. Then great, and I hope that they all come through unscathed.
Yeah, but to me, these national games are utterly fucking pointless, honestly. I'd rather watch paint dry, I think, than watch these games. They're fucking dreadful. Some comments, there's some great comments, actually, about Hardmen and Duncan Ferguson in there as well. If you haven't already, guys, in the comments, go and search out the Duncan Ferguson getting interviewed by Tony Bellew, where he talks about the lads who were stupid enough to break into his house while he was on the sofa with his top off, watching the telly, and he says that he says I hit one of them, and I knew I hit him hard because he never got up. And he says I went from wanting to kill him to trying to revive him because I thought I'd killed him. And you're just thinking, like, that is the worst house you could ever broke into in your fucking life. And there's some comments there from about Jimmy Bullard as well. I do love Jimmy Bullard's banter, I must admit. If you could have a pint with an ex-footballer, I think Jimmy Bullard would be the biggest crack ever, wouldn't he? Because he just seems like a right scream. He really does.
Hyperactive, I think, is one way to describe him. I think there's definitely an ADHD thing, I think, because he's just full on, but he looks so much fun, doesn't he? I think a pint with Jimmy would be good crack.
Absolutely. Do you know what? Maybe one day, you never know where our channel's going to go. I'd love to have a pint with ex-professionals and just have a bit crack on the camera, because I think that would be a hell of a show to do and a hell of a channel feature. But Jimmy Bullard, if you're listening and you're watching, let's go grab a beer.
Get him on first, just for. Right. I know it's a Newcastle channel, but. Come on, Jimmy. Come
on, Jimmy. Followed by Ali McCoist as well. Followed by Ali McCoist. What a couple of beers that would be, mate. Absolutely superb. But moving away from Newcastle, as we always do, this is our last feature of the night, which is Out of Toon. We've got loads to cover tonight. Where shall we start, Mark? Where shall we start? Well, I think we'll start. We'll start kind of with an in-tune bit, following the conversation we had earlier on about how Forest fans were absolutely different class. A couple of things there. This was a post from one of the Forest fans, and he said, if we have to losing to Newcastle is the least offensive. Good players, good club, best fan base out of most, but he's still pissed off. And I love that. I love that comment from the Forest fans, and that was echoed across their fan base. I thought they were brilliant. Yeah. But speaking of fan bases that were brilliant, this was different gravy, Mark, wasn't it? Because obviously the weekend, was Remembrance Sunday. And this was a brilliant post that just said, whenever Forest play Newcastle at the City Ground, a couple of coach loads of Toon Army stop off at Bingham Wetherspoons on the way to the match. Today they brought a wreath with them at the Remembrance service. Great gesture. And that right there is fucking brilliant, by any football fan base, but it's our fan base. And do you know what? Well done, lads. I think that's absolutely class.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise to see a coach load of football fans turn up at Wetherspoons. That's always standard. But yeah, I mean, just little touches like that from fans, and I think that's why I think there's a lot of good feeling between Newcastle and Forest fans. Is that those sorts of things that happen? There's always good feeling. There's never any animosity between them. And you're right. All the Forest fans that I've seen, not one of them has been a dickhead. They've all been really, really sort of quite appreciative of the way that Newcastle came into the game, the way that they played, and went, fair play, we lost to the better side. And good luck for the rest of the season. And that's why everybody's gone back with it. And the number of ones that have gained huge Toon following on social media from it is unbelievable. But yeah, good luck to them for the rest of the season, because they've been brilliant so far, and they came up against a steam train. They really against them this weekend. They were excellent.
They did, absolutely, yeah, absolutely class. To be fair, I did hear that Tonali was in there having a pre-match pint as well. To be fair, with Wetherspoons, but he must have darted over the game quite quickly. Trevor said there, Lineker leaving match of the day. Well, you asked for it, Trevor. He is in the Out of Toon. He is in the Out of Toon that we have right here. So Gary Lineker, yes, it's came out. It's been announced that Gary Lineker will leave match of the day at the end of the season after 26 years. It doesn't surprise me, Mark. I think he's making loads of money off of his podcasts. Obviously, he does like the old political opinion, does Gary Lineker. He doesn't like underage kids, so he's obviously not suited for the BBC, which is probably why he's moving on. But I tell you what's funny as well. Somewhere, I'm not even finished yet. Somewhere, Jermaine Genius is sitting with that fucking dog of his, chasing coin, thinking, if I'd just not sent that dick pic to that fucking lass, I'd have had that fucking job. So wherever you are, Jermaine Genius, unlucky, go and drink out of the fucking goldfish bowl, you silly bellend. That could have been your job. So yes, I'm sure Lineker will be fine, mate.
Bless him. No, I've no sympathy for Jermaine Genius at all. Lineker's I guess an acquired taste. Some people like him, some people don't. He's pretty inoffensive to me most of the time.
That doesn't bother me.
I don't particularly mind him. Look, he's done 26 years. They are shoes to fill, like they were before when he took over from Des. So we'll see who next. I wonder who's next. I would probably Chappers, maybe. Would Chappers do it? Quite like possibly, him when he does Match of the Day 2 and stuff. So I think he's been a good presenter, but we'll see.
I think Chappers will be forever a bridesmaid, never a bride. Sadly, I think for all Chappers, mate. But just seemed like a good guy, to be fair. But I don't think he'll get the old big chair. There's been a few comments asking for the biggest story doing the rounds in terms of football and talk about Gats. You thought Jermaine Genius getting his wanger out was a big mistake. Oh my days! Don't record a video when you're a referee and think that no fucker is going to share it. So if you hadn't seen it already, this is Premier League referee David Coote with a silent N. David Coote vehemently denies inappropriate conduct and has been insistent to the referee's chief PGMOL that the viral video in which he appears is not genuine. So this was a video where I think he called Jurgen Klopp to see you next Tuesday, didn't he, Mark? I think generally was the context of the video, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he went off on one about him being an arrogant so-and-so. He didn't like dealing with him. But the funny thing was that was the initial tweet that came out. Not long later, it was followed up by this one that said he now accepts that the video is genuine. So it obviously went to VAR. And VAR told him to shut up. The first time that VAR got it right.
Yeah, swiftly followed by the news that obviously Coote is now suspended for making this video. And in the words of Ron Burgundy, boy, that escalated quickly. So David Coote is now currently out of work. You never know, maybe he'll go for the Match of the Day job. They like a Coote to the BBC, so maybe he'll get a job.
What struck me was he's trying. I think initially the potential claim that he was saying that it was one of like deep fake sort of things. I mean, but for one, I thought the video was a little bit too grainy and thing to have been faked. It wasn't clean enough. Yeah. But also, who in their right mind is going to go to the lengths of creating that video just to make a referee look bad? You spend all your time doing all this work to understand and work with AI and those sorts of tools. You're not going to do that. He's just been a dickhead, basically. That's all it is. And yeah, to be fair, has he said anything that's wrong? Probably not. Should he say it? No, he shouldn't. So he's just been a dickhead.
Well, to be fair, what he should have done is try to watch about the old monetization and not called him a see you next Tuesday and just called him a Turkish teeth wanker like I used to do quite regularly. So yeah, you should have looked at our videos and took some advice there, David. But I can't say I'm starting to see some of these referees gone, honestly. I mean, if Elon Musk wants to do anything useful, put your robots in to referee the fucking Premier League, mate. At least they'll be a bit more mobile and accurate than these wankers. You know, with the likes of him and fucking Taylor. So could do a lot worse than that, mate. But yeah, that was all going off in the background. So that was a big story. But there was a few other stories doing the rounds as well, Mark. It was the Sheffield derby as well. Obviously United versus Wednesday. I won't get into this wank fan. Horrendous thing about Baldock. What an absolute knob cheese he was. He's a cunt, is what I would say there, rather than anything else. But obviously, Sheffield United came up on top. and won the game. And this was fucking outstanding. Now, he's not everyone's cup of tea, is Chris Wilder. He looks like he works down the mines. He behaves like he works down the mines. And he was in having a beer with the rest of the lads. And he was on the table giving it big licks. And you know what? I'm all for this, man. Fucking right. I want to see Eddie Howe shit-faced holding a pint of neck oil in the gate, shouting he's Brazilian, swinging from the chandelier, while Jason Tyndall is carrying a tray full of Jaeger bombs on a match night. That's what I want to see. Well, I don't think we will see it, but fair play, Chris Wilder.
I think Eddie's a little bit too clean cut for anything like that, isn't he?
Yeah,
no, fair play,
he's more
Chris,
like a glass of vermouth and a bit of piano before bed, I think, Eddie Howe, isn't he? Rather than going to the old dog and duck and getting bollocks, I think, mate, to be fair. But I'd like to see it. I'd still like to see it. So,
Agreed.
Absolutely. So moving on to a few other things. Some great goal celebrations going on this weekend. We'll start with the Premier League. Ipswich Town, a brilliant result for them. Spurs being Spursy, but you can't take it away from Ipswich Town. And, a nice overhead kick by Schmodek, who I think is a great signing, by the way. I wish we'd move for him because I just think he talk about a player that can get you goals in there, cause bother. He's been brilliant since
the little shit house as well, isn't he?
I love that. He's got a bit of the Bellamy about him, and he's got a little bit of the Bellamy about him, I think.
Bellamy body, that kind of
attitude. I like that. And we could have done with a play like that. But anyway, great result for Ipswich. And I'm all for this from Harry Clark from Ipswich, giving it the double fingers, the double bird to the Spurs fans as he went off, gleefully smiling. I really hope he doesn't get in trouble for that, because I think that is fucking class, and I think more footballers should do more of that, I think, going forward. Well done, son. Well done.
Lovely. I mean, Spurs being Spursy on the back of a great result last week, to then lose in midweek and then lose to Ipswich, who, funnily enough, hadn't won a game. I think the Spurs lose to Palace as well, who hadn't won a game this season as well. So they've just put the welcome mat out for them and just go, yeah, you can have your first win of the season. But I'm really pleased for Ipswich, actually, because I love the fact that they're back in the Premier League and I want them to do well. It's a really good result for them.
Brilliant. Trevor says vodka and tonic and a blast of aha for Eddie. I think that's probably about right, to be fair. And he also says Ipswich kit's very metal. I hope they haven't got any QR codes, mate. Don't scan it. So moving on to the next category there. So more goal celebrations. Now, in life, Mark, when you get a little bit older, you normally tend to calm down. When you're a younger man, you may be a little bit crazy. You might do things that you regret. You might bite people like a certain ex-Liverpool striker does. And you like to think when you get a bit older and you're calmer and you're playing in the retirement league with your great friends that you won't be as antagonistic or as angry. Sadly, Luis Suarez is not slowing down whatsoever. So this was Inter Miami's game the other night. A goal went in, and I think it's former Aston Villa goalkeeper Brad Guzan in goal. Yeah. So I think it was... was it Busquets who pushed him first in the back of the net, and then
Messi scores.
Messi got the goal.
Messi
got the goal.
Header, tries to grab the ball. Guzan sort of got the ball and sort of pushes in the way. Then one player follows in and pushes, and then just comes in and wipes him out into the back of the net. And then he has a right to do as he's screaming out towards the referee. Jesus, honestly.
Yeah. And then just as he pulls himself back out the net, Luis Suarez is just there giving him the finger, which is pretty awesome. But it's great to see Luis Suarez hasn't calmed down. The Suarez of the Lambs,
never changed.
He says, George says, you might bite people. That's right. I think Suarez should come with a warning, a little bit like one of them toys. Be careful. Comes with a warning. But not all footballers are shithouses. There is some footballers who sometimes do things that are absolutely out of this world, sensational. And this was doing the rounds. This is former Manchester City forward, current Barca forward, Ferran Torres, and he was in Valencia, who've had a horrendous time with this terrible weather and obviously tragic floods. And he was there helping the victims clean up and everything on the floods, mate. And that's awesome, isn't it, from Torres? That's a great effort, that man.
Yeah, a good example. A decent human being going and helping out. They could quite easily sit away from it all and do nothing. But it is we're reminded every now and again, aren't we, that not all footballers are complete morons. Some of them actually are pretty decent human beings.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of morons, that's a lovely segue, Mark. Actually, because there's a lot of people out there's a lot of people out there who get their living by being football experts, and some of them are football agent and football experts who have a huge following on social media. Now, it doesn't matter how quickly you press delete, the internet never forgets. Step forward, Fabrizio Romano, who decided to tell everybody on X that former Newcastle United player Paul Dummett has agreed to join his, get ready for this, boyhood club, Wigan Athletic, until January. Short-term contract. And cue the brilliant community note. Paul Dummett's boyhood club is Newcastle United. The one that he signed for when he was about fucking 7, Fabrizio, and played with until he was in his 30s, mate. So, I mean, yeah. It's not the first time he's got that wrong. I think Stan Collymore pulled him for Nottingham Forest stat as well, didn't he, the other week? So he's had a bit of a bad time of his, old Romano, man.
Yeah, what was his stat was about Forest being 3rd in the league for the first time in Premier League history until Collymore and others pointed out the fact that I think it was 97 they sat 3rd or top of the league
while he was playing for them.
Well. Yeah, it was a bit of a miss, that. But yeah, the boyhood club of Paul Dummett, who'd never been at Wigan before. So well done, Fab. That was top work.
It was top work. It was top work. And sometimes people make mistakes, though, Fab. Like this one, for example, where this was a Bolton Wanderers game that was doing the rounds. The team sheet was doing the rounds on social media. And Mark picked up on this one quite quickly. So just to let you know kind of what Bolton Wanderers were playing in. So white shirt, check. Blue shorts, check. Shite socks. I'm not entirely sure that was the right spell check. yeah. I mean, we've all wore shite socks before, let's be honest with you. I mean, every Christmas, to be honest. You get shite socks, don't you?
I mean, it's from an interesting point of view from Stockport, who they were playing, is looking at that going, what are they actually playing in? But yeah, I mean, just love little things like that where somebody hasn't done their work to check all the wording before it goes out. Great.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Ferran Torres as well, his Barcelona team had a really unfortunate result where they were beaten 1-0 by Real Sociedad. It was hard on the players, but very hard on one particular fan, which was this lady who, fair play to her, kept her cool, who was stuck amongst all the Real Sociedad fans who were doing the old Poznan in front of her. And wow, that is a tough place to be, mate, as a fan, isn't it? To be honest with you.
I mean, fair play. She took it well, didn't she? She just took it with a smile on her face and just enjoyed it. But my God, to be in the middle of that when it goes off, you just think, oh Christ. But no, of all the places to be stuck on your own as well, don't get who you are. When the opposition fans are like that, but all good natured by the looks of it. And enjoyed.
Not particularly great, yeah. And it could have been very different for Barcelona had Robert Lewandowski not have an 8-foot-long toe, as it looked like the VAR decided to pull forward there with the checking of his goal. I mean, I'm not entirely sure why he's got a go-go gadget toe that's suddenly grown about 4 feet in the replay when they check the lines, Mark. That doesn't look quite kosher to me. I'd be a bit annoyed if I was Lewandowski.
I think the Sociedad, if you look if you can zoom in, you can't obviously zoom in on the top.
We can't zoom in. Find it.
You
no gadgets here, smart ass. No gadgets here. It's just a screenshot.
But it sort of looks as if the Sociedad foot is just on top of Lewandowski's, and it does look bizarre. But I mean, it's one of these where I look at it and go, why have we got to this point in football where that's offside? I mean, it's not, is it? It's not. I mean, his big toe cannot class. What advantage is he getting from that? It's. I know by the letter of the law it's offside, but come on, like whatever happened to the advantage to the attacking side and things like that, and but that cannot be seen as gaining an advantage. Surely.
Well, exactly. Well, thankfully for Lewandowski, his manager didn't react like another manager that we saw doing the rounds on social media, which was, to be honest with you, this was quite great, to be fair, in many ways, because we've always wondered how managers keep their cool with some of these players, and this was the a player for is it Triestina, I think they're called. So he gets sent off in Italy, and his manager just decided to go over and grab him and rag him around like a rag doll just before he kind of threw him down the tunnel, didn't he, as well, which was pretty crazy to see. But I'm amazed he's taking managers this long. A snap, mate, to be honest with you.
Exactly. He didn't go a full Alan Pardew and headbutt him. But yeah, it was... you're right. You are surprised at times, especially when somebody gets sent off stupidly. That this doesn't happen more often, and managers do properly have a go at their players, but it's a little extreme. But yeah, I mean, it's a funny clip to go and watch.
It was definitely. I mean, I'm sure the player will think twice before he gets sent off again as well. And there was a little bit of a bizarre Stoke penalty going on, mate, wasn't it, the weekend? You want to tell us a little bit about that, Mark?
Or non-penalty. The ball comes across on this left-hand side. There's a corner. And I mean, you can see those two that are lying backwards. Is the Stoke player in front is absolutely hauled backwards, and he goes flying, and it's not given. I mean, it's the clearest penalty you'll ever see in your entire life, and how that's been missed is unbelievable. It's a shocking decision.
Maybe Anthony Taylor was moonlighting doing that game as well. To be fair. That's possibly the case. And we'll end on this cracking story, which was Caversham United. So this game, Caversham United, was temporarily paused as a lady with a pram and her 2 kids walked across the pitch. So obviously no consideration whatsoever. There was an actual game going on. She just said, fuck it. We're going to the park, kids. Just walk straight across and keep your head down. So fair play to her. Mate.
It was. And I actually forgot to put up the opposition's message as well, which basically said she was in no danger of us hitting her because we couldn't hit anything. Fair play to them for getting involved with that.
Superb. But yeah, I love a bit of that. Absolutely class. Maybe they're Southampton reserves. Possibly that might be them if their shooting's that bad, mate. But absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's us done for this week's What's Going On, guys. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, as always. Always helps the episode flow. Always helps us enjoy doing the show as well. And as I mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, smash subscribe. Help get us to that 9,000 subscriber mark. We're really, really close to it. Only 100 and something. I still can't be bothered to count. But there, look at the numbers. Do the maths for me. There you go. Mark's done the maths. Come on, Rachel Riley. You know, mind you, if I had Rachel Riley, I might have some more subs, maybe fair. But listen, we'll think about that. We'll think about that moving forward. But thanks everybody for watching. Keep it evermore. We'll be back with some more content. Even though it's a national break, we'll try and cook up some stuff for you. Have a good chat about it before Newcastle United return to action against West Ham and hopefully get another 3 points and keep this ball rolling. So have a bell, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys. See you.